episode, everyone. And Anna, happy new episode to you. How has your year been going so far?
Girl, February reaching. February. Hey, speaking of February, it's reggae month.
Yes.
All my reggae lovers, big up yourself, right? And it's the start of the athletic season. Gibson soon come up, right? Then champs, KC people, again, big up yourself. And it's 2026. BOJ celebrates 65 years of being Bank of Jamaica.
That is right.
Yes.
Bank of Jamaica began its operations in May 1961. And I'm looking forward to some great activities for marking the anniversary.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
BOJ. BOJ can do its thing. Yeah. Well, with that said, welcome to another program of our two-time international award-winning, centrally speaking, get it correct, two-time we win award.
And in case you didn't know, Centrally Speaking is the program that opens up the conversation around important matters of economics and finance, matters of national importance that have an impact on your life. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Anna. Glad you could join us for another episode. For those of you who are joining for the first time, welcome to the Centrally Speaking experience. Hope you enjoy the season with us.
As usual, you have an interesting show coming up. In this episode, we have with us Senior Deputy Governor of Bank of Jamaica, Dr. Wayne Robinson. He will be our very special guest.
Yes, and he'll be giving us an update on the state of the economy, particularly inflation, and what BOJ has been doing to mitigate the effects of Hurricane Melissa.
But before he joins us, let's check in with you. It's time for Street Check.
Check, check.
What is inflation? So it's the rising of cost over a period of time.
Inflation is when there are less goods and services being sold by an organization and the money goes up.
Inflation is change in prices over time, increase in prices over time.
So inflation is basically when the cost of goods go up in a country or anywhere in the region. I guess that's inflation. That's what I think it is.
Inflation is the raising of prices over time.
What I understand from inflation is that there's a whole lot of persons chasing a particular product, hence the price increases based on the demand.
Sheena, one thing with my friend in the street, them are going with themselves,
Yes.
Great
Yeah.
answers, Jamaica.
And if you check out our pamphlet series, it's called Essential Facts About Inflation. We define it as the rate at which the general price level of goods and services in the economy rises over time. All this and more on BOJ's website, so check it out.
Right, so now come with us as we attempt to demystify economic matters in a way that everyone can understand.
So now to our guest, Senior Deputy Governor Wayne Robinson. Wayne Robinson, welcome to Centrally Speaking.
Thanks, Sheena. Thanks, Anna. This is the 8th season?
Yes.
Eighth season in 7
great
years.
going,
Resident advisor.
Yes.
Yes. You're here every season.
And it's great to be back. It's always good to talk with you guys.
So, Dr. Wayne, our first question is going to be about the impact of Hurricane Melissa, especially on the inflation story. What was it before Melissa and what is it now?
All right, thanks, Anna. But, I'd probably want to start by just setting a context.
Yeah.
And to, first of all, just underscore what Bank of Jamaica is here for.
Yes.
One of the primary reasons why we are here. And our primary job is to keep inflation low, stable, and predictable. Yeah? The fact is, inflation benefits no one, neither consumers nor businesses. I don't know if you're too young, Anna, to remember the inflation ravages of the early 1990s, when inflation went sky high, and just how difficult that was for both householders, workers like you and me, and even businesses.
I remember, but my lunch money never go up.
Yeah.
So, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so we don't want to get back to that.
Right.
And this is why the government has mandated us to try to keep inflation in this 4 to 6% target range. You asked about the narrative before and since Melissa. And again, I probably just want to talk about a little bit of our most recent inflation history.
Yes.
Again, just to sort of set a context. Remember coming out of COVID, we had the supply chain issue, and then we had the Ukraine war, and so prices spiked, inflation went up. Bank of Jamaica responded. We responded early, we responded decisively. And that, in addition to the fact that, you know, prices normalized as supply chains got better, inflation came back down, nicely back down into the 4 to 6% range. And so we're going nicely along, and then Beryl hit.
Right.
Yes.
That disturbed that again.
Yeah.
Bank of Jamaica maintained its focus on inflation management. And that, along with the fact that the agricultural sector responded very strongly in terms of recovery from the early part of this year, we again saw, following that spike in inflation, we again saw inflation coming back down. So the recent inflation story really is one of shocks, but strong policy response, not just by the central bank, but also by the government.
Good rebounds.
And that strong combined policy response has resulted in inflation moderating after the shock. And that is important to our narrative of inflation when we think about the impact of Melissa. So before Melissa hit in September, inflation actually went below the 4 to 6% target range. It's about 2.1. At that point, we weren't surprised, and we did expect that inflation would start to trend back up to the target range before Melissa. And certainly looking at the inflation data for October before Melissa, I mean, we were seeing that inflation was tending back to the target range. Then we had this unprecedented shock to the country and the economy. Because of the impact that has had, both in terms of just the magnitude and how pervasive it is, our expectations, as we had communicated in our last two monetary policy press releases, is that inflation will go above the 4 to 6% target range. And in fact, we are expecting that certainly come January, we will see inflation moving above this 4 to 6% target range. If there's any glimmer of hope, what I would say is that, first of all, our expectation, though, is that whilst prices will spike, whilst inflation will accelerate and go beyond our target range, we're anticipating that certainly by early next year, early 2027, the first quarter of 2027, that inflation will come back down.
You beautifully set the context, the post-pandemic era, where inflation was. You also spoke about the hurricane, both Beryl and Melissa, and tell us specifically though, what has Bank of Jamaica done, or what is Bank of Jamaica doing to help to reduce the cost on supermarket bills, for example, and also to businesses?
So what we have had really is what we call a supply shock. Yeah, most of agriculture have been devastated. Okay? So in this context, it's important to understand that with agricultural production out, monetary policy can't affect the initial jump in the prices of tomato and scallion and carrot.
Right.
Monetary policy can't do anything about that initial jump in prices. But the thing is that the story doesn't stop there, right? Because those initial jump in prices can actually take on a life of its own, right? It can just accelerate. It may not just stop there. It can continue to grow, simply because, you know, people expect prices to move in this environment. And so there will be a natural tendency to continue to raise prices in this environment. But there's another aspect of it as well. There's what we call second round effects or knock-on effects, right? So we are seeing and we expect to see prices of other goods and services going up. For example, the cost of household repairs, yeah? Both in terms of the cost of materials, the cost of labor. We expect that to go up. We expect other items, personal care items, for example. We expect that to go up, and the prices of other services as well. Given the fact that, you know, supply chains right across the country would have been severely impacted, so transportation costs are going to go up. Now, it is these knock-on and second-round effects that we're trying to restrain.
Okay.
So we have done two things. First of all, we have kept the policy rate where it is. Recall earlier we had started to adjust rates, but we had paused because of the inflationary pressures that we've seen coming. So the message that we're saying to the financial markets is that, you know, we want to hold interest rates where they are for the moment. Note, we are not saying that interest rates must go up, because that is not what we want. Neither are we saying, certainly at this point, that interest rates should fall, because, of course, we want to constrain that second round effects. Yeah, we want to temper the impulses to that. So at this point, and I want to say at this point because the Monetary Policy Committee will be reviewing the situation again in February. And so, you know, based on the analysis, things could change. But up to this point, we have held the policy rate where it is. The second thing that we have done, and this is in recognition to the fact that we expect imports to surge. We expect imports to rise. And you can understand that, because we're going to need to import more food, we're going to need to import more agricultural product just to fill the gap temporarily, given the fallout. We're going to have to be importing supplies and materials to support the rehabilitation and the reconstruction efforts. So we expect imports to rise. And with imports rising, of course, then there'll be additional demand for foreign exchange, which will then put pressure on the exchange rate, which could then have a feedback effect on the inflation that we're trying to manage. So the second thing that we have done in response to this is that we have increased the supply of foreign exchange from the central bank to the market. And two things we have done there. We have been supplying Petrojam directly. We have been selling them foreign exchange directly. So in a sense, we have taken their demand out of the market. And so that has, you know, taken some of the pressure off the market. And we have telegraphed in advance to the market when we are coming into the market. So they have some greater degree of reassurance that there will be additional supply in the market. These are, of course, temporary measures. This is just in response to the shock that we face. So these are temporary measures.
All right, so Dr. Wayne, you were careful to explain that in the interim, the primary driver of inflation now coming out of Melissa is agricultural produce. But the central bank's efforts now is to constrain the knockoff effects. One of those knockoff effects would be perhaps the calls in some sectors to lower, even further lower interest rates. You were explaining that the central bank wants to keep it where it is, but at this point, right? But yes, you said that. But what if the calls become more pressured to say, central bank, please lower, so that we on this end, especially the financial institutions, they can respond accordingly for the demands of their customers.
We understand that. We understand those calls. I mean, naturally, in an environment, in a circumstance like this, the initial response one would expect is to be more accommodative, to be more stimulative of the recovery, which is what we want at the end of the day. But we again go back to our primary mandate, which is price stability.
Yeah.
And we have to recognize that if arising from this hurricane shock, inflation gets out of control, not only are things going to be difficult for consumers and wage earners and workers, but the very recovery that we want is going to even be more difficult in that environment. So our first focus has to be trying to ensure that we maintain some stability or get to some normalization as quickly as possible in inflation. That's the first objective. So our policy stance is going to be and will continue to remain conditioned on the outlook for inflation.
So we are here with Senior Deputy Governor Dr. Wayne Robinson from Bank of Jamaica. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this little break.
So welcome back to your favorite program on TV, Centrally Speaking. School is in session. We're in econ class with Dr. Wayne Robinson, Senior Deputy Governor at Bank of Jamaica. We continue the conversation. Dr. Wayne, in recent times, the global order, there's been some volatility, to reuse the word. There are some shifts. Now, how is BOJ's responding to the shifts, especially in terms, of course, the price stability, the foreign exchange, and the likely impact on inflation as well?
Yeah. You know, Anna, Sheena, this is a difficult time for forecasters.
Right.
And by extension, policymakers.
Yes.
Because it seems now that uncertainty and shocks are the new normal. Yeah. I mean, we've been seeing rather seismic shifts in trading relations that is affecting just how firms do business, really. Because it's affecting supply chain. Yeah. It's affecting consumer confidence and also business sentiments as well. And, you know, we certainly anticipate that it's going to affect capital flows. We're also likely to see shifts in migration patterns as well, as you know, the US and other countries relook their immigration policies. Then, with all of this, we're in the midst of an AI revolution.
Indeed.
And nobody knows yet where that is going to go. And then, to add on top of all of this, certainly for Jamaica, we face multiple, often simultaneous and overlapping shocks. So we're just in a period where there's turbulence, whether it's from geopolitical uncertainty or whether it's from climate change. Although the looking glass is not crystal clear, we have to position policy to navigate this environment. And in doing so, one of the key things for us is to ensure that we have adequate buffers. And this not just applies to Bank of Jamaica, but also applies to the government in their fiscal management.
Okay.
Macro policy in Jamaica has consistently stressed the importance of building buffers.
Yeah.
And for Bank of Jamaica, the key buffer for us, of course, is our foreign reserves. And we have very, very robust, historically high foreign reserves. That is currently at about 6.7 US billion. Yeah, that is way in excess of what could be of what is typically considered as adequate.
So, Wayne, I want you to share with us your thoughts on the recent tariff increases, and its impact on our exports and imports within Jamaica.
Right. What I would say is that at this point, and I keep reiterating at this point, because of just the dynamic and fluid environment that we're in. At this point, it doesn't seem that the tariff impact, certainly on domestic prices, is as strong as we had initially anticipated.
Okay.
In fact, it is appearing to be limited at this point. And we think that there are a number of reasons for this. First of all, the effective tariff rates are actually much lower than what was announced on Liberation Day.
Okay.
And consequently, the countervailing tariff response by trading partners has been lower.
Okay.
The other thing as well, and this is perhaps the more significant factor, is that firms, both US firms and local firms, have been absorbing much of that tariff increase. So their margins are being squeezed. They are slowly passing through the impact, slowly. So they are absorbing most of the shock.
Okay.
Now, how long can they continue to do that? That's another question. We certainly expect that certainly this month and over the next 3 or so months, we probably will see a higher pass-through of these tariffs to domestic prices. So we are expecting that firms will more and more over the next few months begin to pass on these tariff increases.
Okay.
When we look at the US inflation outturn, for example, we're seeing that movements in goods prices in the US. So we do expect some of that to start filtering through. But I think the bottom line is that so far firms have been absorbing much of the increases, and so their margins are being squeezed. On the export side, our exporters, of course, they are facing the 10% tariff for goods in the U.S. market. And again, the feedback that we're getting is that our domestic exporters, they are trying to absorb as much as of that increase as they can, because they're in a very competitive market space.
Yeah.
So our exporters, their margins as well are being squeezed.
Okay.
It's not all bad news, because we know that U.S. steel and aluminum are exempted.
Okay.
So we think that there are prospects for increased mining exports, in particular bauxite and alumina to the U.S.
Okay.
So we'll watch the data to see how that pans out.
Our viewers, especially those who have joined us from the top, must say, boy, Dr. Wayne, me hear you, I understand you, right? But talk to me now. How we recover? And when me if you do, what you want me if you do, Dr. Wayne? What you say me must do? What me can do for help stability and growth? What would you tell our viewers?
Well, you said you. I think you're doing something very important now, is just providing this opportunity for us to explain and share our views. Because communicating the central bank's perspective and explaining its policy is very important. But beyond that, what I would say, when we consider the response of ordinary Jamaicans in the immediate aftermath of Melissa, it certainly gives anyone looking on great hope. Hope for the future despite this adversity. We are a resilient people.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, the first thing is important, that we remain positive. And we believe in ourselves. And we believe in the indomitable Jamaican spirit. I think that's fundamental. From a broader economic policy perspective, as I were discussing earlier, we have to ensure that we preserve whatever buffers we have. We have to remain very focused on ensuring that the economic environment remains stable. And finally, as the Prime Minister and the government have been emphasizing, is that the rebuilding has to be smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has to enable one greater resilience. And it also has to create the platform and environment for accelerated growth.
Structural resilience.
Yeah.
Structural resilience. Yeah? And so with that said, I think we just have to remain positive and remain focused on the task at hand.
Thank you so much. Wayne, we could go on and on. This conversation has been so insightful. We want to thank you for joining us here.
It
at
was
Century
my
Speaking.
pleasure.
Thank you.
This point in
At
time.
this point in time.
Got the message.
Boy, econ class is nice today. Yeah, we learned a lot. Sure you enjoyed today's program with Senior Deputy Governor at Bank of Jamaica, Dr. Wayne Robinson. Stay tuned for more Centrally Speaking after the break.
If you're just joining us, you missed our interview with Deputy Governor Dr. Wayne Robinson. Here's a summary of the conversation. Now let's get into the fast facts. Number 1. The annual rate of inflation at September 2025 was 2.1%, below the target range of 4 to 6%. At that time, inflation was expected to gradually increase and remain within the bank's target range over the next 2 years. Number 2. Post-Hurricane Melissa, the annual headline inflation is expected to rise from 4.5% recorded at the end of 2025 and remain above the 4 to 6% target range during 2026. Number 3. Bank of Jamaica held the policy interest rate at 5.75% to ensure that inflation returns to the target range in the shortest possible time. Number 4. The foreign exchange market reflected general stability during 2025, supported by earnings from tourism and remittances. As such, the exchange rate depreciated by just 1.7% during the year. And number 5. BOJ does not target the exchange rate to drive it to a particular level. We have a floating exchange rate, which should reflect the forces of demand and supply. And that's it for our Fast Facts. That's our program for this week.
Follow us on X and Facebook at Central Bank JA, at Central Bank Jamaica on Instagram, and on BOJ's YouTube channel. You can also visit our website, boj.org.jm.
We also invite you to send your questions on X or Facebook.
And of course, What's Centrally Speaking next week at the same time right here on your station when we will have another special guest. I'm Anna.
And I'm Sheena.
Thanks for watching.
Centrally Speaking is a production of Bank of Jamaica.